if you could connect with the unseen world and receive guidance from beyond, how can we help spirits stranded in our realm find their way home? How can you travel to the spirit world to gain the wisdom you need and receive answers to life's deepest questions?
Welcome to the Magical Professions podcast, where we embark on a creative exploration of the hidden, mystical, and transformational professions that shape both our world and the unseen realms beyond it. Our journey takes us across history, mythology, fiction, and real-world magical practices, uncovering the roles of those who bridge the gap between energy, healing, and spirit. Today, we're joined by Tina Kinney Clarke, a Shamanic Reiki Master Teacher and the visionary behind Stargazing Angel LLC. For a decade, Tina has guided individuals through deep healing and energetic transformation, helping them break through stagnation, overcome chronic pain, and embrace their true potential. Welcome, Tina. It's a great pleasure to have you on our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And can you please briefly introduce yourself and let our listeners know where you are joining us from what part of the world? Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on the Magical Professions podcast. What a perfect title for what we do. I'm located in the Charleston, South Carolina area in the USA.
Thank you very much, Tina. Charleston, South Carolina is right here. So we're neighbors, basically. I'm in Florida. Can you tell us something that maybe is a little bit more mystical about Charleston? What is it known for in this realm of a mystical world?
Yeah, Charleston's a very old city. It's been through a lot. It's been through all of the wars that the US has experienced. It has a reputation for being haunted, which is true. It's pretty haunted. One of my favorite places in Charleston is the Angel Oak tree. And it's a gorgeous old oak tree that they say is at least 500 years old. I believe it's probably more 800 to 1,000 years old. And it's just something that doesn't exist anywhere else. And it's gorgeous. And if you are telepathic, the tree will talk to you. But overall, I think the trees in this area are really special. There's some really old trees here, and I love trees, so you can connect with them really well.
What does it take to connect with the tree? What abilities should we have to do that?
You really need to be clairaudient, which means you need to be able to hear spirit or other beings that are from other dimensions. So anything from fairies to trees to stones, you can connect to because everything has a consciousness. So if you have that ability and you can carry on a conversation telepathically with a tree like angel oak or anything else that you could connect to.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And can you tell a little bit about yourself? What do you do on the spiritual level?
Okay. So I've always been a very sensitive child growing up, and I believed in spirit from a very young age. In high school, I had some very close friends that lived in haunted places or experienced spirit. And so we were very close. There was no reason for them to lie to me. So I thought, oh, this must be real. And so from then on, I would always read books about mediums. And I would think, wow, what a wonderful gift to have, not knowing that I actually had that gift. But I didn't realize I had that gift till I met my Reiki teacher in 2014. And I took a tarot class with her, and I had quite a vivid dream around that time. And I shared that dream with her, and she said, I think this is more than a dream. I think that you had a soul connection in this dream. And then she then asked me, do you dream of past loved ones or even anybody that passed, like animals? And I said, yeah, all the time. Doesn't everybody? And she said that was a sign that I was a natural medium and that spirits knew that they could contact me and I would remember. And so I started practicing my mediumship with her as well as getting Reiki trained. So Reiki really strengthened my abilities. It really strengthened my intuition, my ability to remain in a meditative state. So it's a great modality to practice those gifts. And the more I practiced, the stronger I got. Also, my Reiki teacher trained me in shamanism. So what I would call spiritual shamanism. So I work with spirits in the spirit world. They help me and I help them. And the way I do that is through the mediumship and also through shamanic journeys and soul retrievals, which I have completed over 108 to date. And my very first book, Into the Tree, has 80 of those shamanic journeys and soul retrievals. And so you can get a really good idea of what that's like and how I do them, because I think everybody does it a little bit different. But the reason why I wrote the book is because I realized there's really no book out there like this. There is a wonderful book by Sandra Ingerman who does a soul retrieval book, and she shares a little bit about what she experiences, but it's more of an explanation of what it is. Well, mine contains 80 of them. So you get a really good idea of what a shamanic journey is like and what a soul retrieval is like through the book. It's called Into the Tree, Journeying into the Spirit World. I also have a business, Stargazing Angel. I launched it the year that I got Reiki trained, 2014. So it's now been 11 years. I've been through COVID and everything, and I'm still here. And I offer intuitive readings, Reiki energy healing sessions, shamanic healing sessions. I even do property clearings and blessings once in a while. And yeah, and now I'm also the host of a podcast on holistic healing called Voices of Healing.
Yes, and that's a wonderful podcast. I had an opportunity to listen to it, and you speak yourself, and you also are bringing wonderful guests to your podcast. So I would definitely recommend other people listening to it. So thank you for doing that. And you mentioned that you actually had the gift of mediumship, yes, of being a medium for all this time, but you learned about it only when somebody, in this case your teacher, told you about that. And it's possible that you could have been living with it and longer and maybe never opened it up for yourself, which I think might happen to many other people. So, how to recognize this gift within yourself? Maybe there are much more people that are gifted and they can do absolutely amazing new things and discover themselves in this new way.
So I realized that I have always gotten messages, especially in the form of pictures and maybe a vision. But growing up, I didn't know what it was. And so the picture would come in and I would see it and I would go, well, that's weird. I don't know what that means. And then immediately dismiss it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then forget about it. So once I started my training and learning that this actually means something, I started paying attention to those messages. And, you know, my biggest hang up was with clairaudience is I never tried to speak to spirit. and listen for a response. I would speak to spirit because I was afraid, and I would say, I know you're here, but please don't show yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked most of the time. But when I was practicing with my teacher, she was like, well, communicate. If they show up, ask them why they're here. Ask them what their name is, just like a conversation you would have with a person.
Mm-hmm.
And ask them if they need any help with anything, if you can help them. And that's when I realized not only could I hear them, but I could see them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they would respond to me.
What do you think is this magical profession? Because we're exploring, yes, we're considering magical profession. What is its main purpose of the profession of being a medium? What does it do to this magical world and maybe world of ours or something in between? What is its main function?
Well, I think that our ancient ancestors worked with spirit and knew that the spirit world existed and that we coexisted with the spirit world. But in recent modern times, we've lost touch with that. And so the purpose is to reconnect to the spirit world, to reconnect with Mother Earth and the elementals, and understand that we're part of a multidimensional world that's physical and spirit, and that we can help the spirit world and they can help us. Now with mediumship, mediums are just receive the message and relay the message. And that's all they do. That's all mediums do. But beyond that, what I do as a shamanic practitioner is I actually work with spirit, and sometimes they need my help and sometimes I need their help. And so it's a relationship with spirit. So say you find a spirit that's lost or lost its way, it passed away and didn't realize it. This has happened a lot. So when I encounter a spirit like that, I help them find the light so they can transition home where they belong. And that's what a shaman does. A medium doesn't do that. A shaman does that.
Yeah. Yes, I hear you. How would you define a spirit? What the spirit is?
Well, we have people who used to be alive and passed away and then either didn't realize they passed away or refused to transition to the other side. So they get stuck on the earth plane. You know, there's also benevolent spirits and ascended masters and angels and spirit guides that assist us in our lifetime with our goals, with, especially if you're working in with spirit, you have those guides that help you. And as a shaman, I have power animals that help me, that I always accompany me in every journey that I make, every soul retrieval, any clearings and blessings. I invoke my power animals and my guides to be with me. Sometimes, you can connect with other beings, galactic beings. They may be physical or non-physical. So, like I said, if you're telepathic, you can connect with anything. You can connect with a crystal and it'll talk to you and tell you where it's from.
Yes, that's amazing. You also mentioned that at some point we got disconnected from this world of spirits. And like you said, there are many different spirits, it looks like. So there was this disconnect. And you also mentioned that it's important to start getting connected again, reconnecting with them. Why do you think this is important? So what was missing in our life while we were disconnected?
Well, we need to understand that everything is connected. And if we understand that, we know that we're never alone. And so we're surrounded by spirit all the time. Your angels are there, your spirit guides are there. There might be other high benevolent beings that want to work with you, especially if you're an energy healer or a shaman. And this is the most fulfilling part of being alive, is knowing that we are all connected and knowing that we have help and we're not alone. And because this is a tough place to be on planet Earth, very, very tough. So when you understand you're not alone and you understand that the universe and the creator is part of you and is supporting you in everything that you do, it's a complete different approach to life. And the more disconnected you are, the more likely you're going to be depressed and anxious and, unhappy. So the spirit world's a real thing. Our ancestors knew that. We've gotten disconnected from it. And not only that, people who connected to spirit hundreds of years ago, they were killed for it. Even healers that worked with herbs. So it was dangerous to do that. And so now we've come to a time where we're moving into the Aquarian age and we need to use these abilities now, and we're safe now. We're safe to use it. And we're supposed to use it. If you have these gifts, you need to be using it. If you're not, then, things are going to get harder for you. The more that you resist it, the more it's going to persist. So if you have natural gifts, find a teacher, find the books, find the classes, explore what makes you happy and excited. And that's how you know you're on the right track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very important that you are mentioning it, to use this excitement about doing things as a barometer of choosing the right path. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny because yesterday I had an interview on my podcast, and he is a medium, and he grew up in a very spiritual family where they practiced and they did seances, and his mother channeled spirit. And I always get a twinge, a little bit of envy that he grew up in that environment, because I'm the only one in my family that's doing this, which is fine. It's not going to stop me, but it would have been nice to have someone to explain to me, Tina, if you get a picture in your head, this is what it might mean.
Yes. Yes, you're absolutely right. But probably in your case, you just needed this type of journey. But like you said, maybe there will be things like that. It will become so natural that the parents will be just explaining to their children, hey, if you have a picture, it means this and this. So you're just speaking to a spirit or having an information from a spirit, something like that. So things hopefully will change. Yes.
Yeah, I think it is changing. And a lot of people have come to me, clients or students who have said, I lost my abilities. I used to be able to see things and hear things, and now I don't anymore. And how do I get those back? And I always say, take Reiki. I mean, I love Reiki training because it gives you a modality to practice your energy healing. So you understand what's your energy and what someone else's energy is that's separate from you. So a lot of sensitives and empaths, they merge too much with all the energies, and they don't understand what they're feeling. They feel overwhelmed. They're walking around like a sponge, absorbing everything, and you can't do that. So you need to understand what's coming from you and coming outside from you. And if it's coming from outside of you, don't own it. Don't take it on, because it's not yours, whether that be like anger or an emotion or, another type of energy. And then Reiki is, you go into a meditative state when you practice Reiki. So the more you practice Reiki, the more in touch you will be with your intuition, because you quiet the mind, you practice, and those messages, if you do have those natural gifts, will just naturally come in. So that's why I always recommend get Reiki trained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for this recommendation. And you mentioned already some mistakes that people are doing when they start using their abilities, what are other main mistakes just the beginners, practitioners are making when they start to exercise their abilities?
Yeah, so it's very important to have good discernment. And when you're choosing to work with someone or choosing a teacher, you really want to vet that teacher. You really want to explore how they teach, what do they learn, who do they work with, what spirits do they work with. So for me, I always work with spirits of the light. When I'm doing any healing work, I always invoke my angels and guides every single time. Even if I pull a tarot card, I do that first. And so you want to state your intention that that's the beings that you want to work with. Now, have I encountered kind of darker energies? Yes. But guess what? I still help them. Usually they need to transition, or I've encountered beings that don't want to be on Earth anymore and don't know how to get off Earth. So same thing as with a ghost, you just send them on their way, point them on their way. If you need help, you invoke the angels of light and have them help you. So there's so much help out there. I never do anything alone. I can't. No one can do anything alone. It just doesn't happen. Not in the magical world that we live in.
Yes, in the magical world we live in. Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you for saying that. And now let's talk a little bit more about that help that is needed for the soul. So you already mentioned some of it, that there are spirits who for some reason cannot leave this world. Yes. There are spirits that maybe don't want to leave this world, but they want to convey their message to somebody. Is that correct? Can you give us a little bit more insights on what is that those spirits need from us?
Yeah. So some spirits, some people pass away and they don't transition to the other side into the light. They just stay here. So they could stay here for many reasons. A lot of it has to do with your beliefs while you were alive. So if you didn't believe in life after death, you would be confused when you actually passed. I've encountered spirits that were told there was no such thing as heaven and they couldn't go there, which is extremely sad. So when I do encounter them, I tell them they've been lied to and that they do belong in heaven and they need to transition to the other side. There are people who think they might be punished. They might go to hell. And if you believe in hell, you're going to see hellish things when you pass away. So it's all like expectations and beliefs. And then some don't realize they passed away and think that they're still alive, but they're very confused because no one will talk to them. No one sees them. And they just end up getting stuck. I mean, I've even had spirits say they didn't think the light tunnel was a tunnel of light. They thought it was the sun. So there's all sorts of confusion for them. You just need to gently tell them you passed away. Usually, if they need convincing, I tell them, well, don't you want to be with your loved one, your mother, your father? They're in the light too, especially a spirit that's been passed for a long time. That's like their motivation to leave because they want to be with their loved ones in the light. There's all sorts of things. When my children were young, I would encounter child spirits all the time because they would come and play with their toys at night and they were attracted to my children. And I would found a ghost of a boy in my daughter's closet. And my daughter was sensitive enough. She didn't like the closet. So I knew there was something in there. But he just didn't know where to go. He was just there because he felt safe and he didn't know that he could go somewhere else.
How do you usually help them? One thing you said that you can try to convince them to say that there is somebody waiting for you far away? What are other ways how you can help these spirits?
I guess I've been told that I have this reputation that I help children that are in spirit form. So I have this reputation in the spirit world for doing that. So they tend to come to me. Sometimes they're distraught. Sometimes there's another spirit keeping them here and kind of threatening them or bullying them. So I separate them, and I love to call on Mother Mary for the children, because once she comes in, they completely calm down. And she usually picks them up in her arms and takes them into the light. So for children, I use her a lot. And if I encountered a spirit that's kind of feisty and wants to fight me, I'll just call on Archangel Michael or the angels of light, and they can help me too. So it depends on the spirit. But I'm pretty strong with them. So I usually try to convince them to go. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard because they don't belong here and they need to go into the light, into the other side. And their energy, if they stay here, affects all of us. So all of their emotions and sadness and confusion affects us, especially sensitive people can pick up on that. So it's kind of like clearing off the planet. And when you are a human, a physical human in the body, you can do those things. Now, I always tell people that you're in charge on this planet. Spirit's not in charge. You are. You need to do the things. Spirit can't do it for you. So you have a lot of power on the planet to say what happens, what occurs here. And so they just need help transitioning.
And you mentioned that those spirits do not belong here. My question is, are there any spirits that actually do something useful? Maybe, I don't know, I'm just brainstorming. Maybe they're helping their loved ones. Maybe they're somehow looking after them. Something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us have ancestors working with us, helping us, but they're in the light already. So they're just visiting. So they can come back and forth every time you think of them, every time you're feeling emotion connected to them, they know. And that pulls them to you like a magnet. So it's funny when I have sessions with people and they're like, oh, is my grandmother okay? Is she around me? And I would say yes, because you just brought her up, because she knows she's talking about you. So right away, they know your feelings, they know your thoughts. It's not hidden from them. And your ancestors, if they had gifts, for example, and they couldn't use them, they had the mediumship gift. They're really invested in me to practice now, because this is something they weren't allowed to do. And so they really want you to succeed. They really want you to use your gifts, especially if they had them and they weren't able to use them or were even prosecuted for them.
Thank you very much for making this distinction. So there are souls that are here, but they still cannot get to the light the way you describe it, and we can help them to get there. However, there are spirits that are already there, but they can't come and can help us and guide us and support us. And actually, they're always available, but for some reason, we don't always feel that. So what is that reason that sometimes even people can cry, people can ask for help, tell me what to do, but we don't hear the response? I'm sure it is there, but what prevents us from really connecting and hearing and sensing that?
So the messages are very subtle. So if you get communication from your angels and spirit guides, you really have to quiet your mind. You really have to go within. And that's why it's recommended all the time to meditate and go within, because it's easier to hear them. It's easier to notice. And you can work with your angels and guides or ancestors. You can say, look, I need help with this, and I need a big sign on what to do next. And then when you get that sign, you'll be looking for the sign. And so you'll be paying attention. Okay. And that's how synchronicity works, because they work in synchronicities, and it doesn't even have to be, it could be a sign, it could be numbers, it could be overhearing a conversation and hearing certain words. And you go, oh, that has something to do with my issue. Or you keep hearing things repeated. That's a sign as well. If you're clairaudient, you might hear words. You might hear a whisper. I always say, like, angels and guides, they whisper to you. So you need to quiet your mind and you need to pay attention. If you're asking for signs, pay attention. You can't be distracted because you're going to miss the sign.
Yeah.
So be open, because also it may not come in the form that you expect. So you have to be open and watchful and aware. And then when things start repeating, that's a message for you. And when you're excited by the sign and the message, that's the answer. But you can't judge it. You have to be open, because sometimes spirit's got a sense of humor. They may send you a message that's weird. Sometimes it comes over as a feeling, like my feeling is very strong. So I'll have a feeling that I need to go somewhere, or I have a feeling I need to talk to that person. I don't know why. It's kind of like a push and a nudge from spirit, because that person you need to talk to for some reason. Either they need to be around your energy, or there's something that you need to say to them, or there's something they need to say to you that might be a message.
Yes, it's so good that you are mentioning this. So first of all, we need to be open to how it might come along. We don't know in what shape or form, so we're open. Second of all, we need to be attentive. We need to think about what we want to focus on and to look for signs. And then also probably trust yourself, trust your intuition, because very often we have some thought, we have some feeling that, we need to do this, but we just disregard it. Very often this happens, yes, to people. So in this case, it's very important not only to listen to yourself, but to do and take those actions towards what we hear.
Right. And trust yourself. I have people who are gifted and they say, well, I don't know if that's real. Take that leap of faith that it's real. I don't know if I can communicate with spirit, and believe that you can.
Yeah.
Believe that if you practice and you really love it, that you'll get better at it. It's like a muscle. You keep working the muscle, it'll get stronger and stronger. Explore your other lives, your past lives. You could have been a medium or a healer in another life. So this is not new to you. This is something that you can access and bring in this lifetime. I believe, like, I've done this a lot. So that's why I'm good at it now. I was naturally talented at it, but I also kept practicing and I kept learning and I kept taking classes. I kept reading books. I kept doing shamanic journeys and writing them down. And so I got better and better at it. If it's something that you are intrigued by, explore it and learn about it, and then practice. You're not going to become a good Reiki practitioner if you don't practice.
Yeah.
You can get the certificate, but you're not going to have the experience. And the experience is what makes you stronger and makes you learn about yourself and others.
Yes, thank you so much for mentioning that. When we're talking about past lives, I liked about what you said, that we had certain abilities. We already knew how to do certain things. We might have been mediums. We might have been practicing. We might have been spiritual guides. So actually to tap into that potential, I think is really, really important, and to remember those skills, to remember what you were able to do. I think it is very powerful, and to bring it now here and practice.
Yeah. And you know that you have access to all that wisdom. Why wouldn't you? If you've been through lifetimes and lifetimes of this, state your intention. I want access to this wisdom that I earned in other lifetimes.
Mhm.
And then watch it come in. Because if you're naturally talented at something, for example, let's use Mozart. He was playing the piano as a toddler. Mozart was probably spent lifetimes practicing the piano. And then he decided to have this incredible lifetime where he became famous, and he was going to play the piano, and he was going to use those skills that he had in other lifetimes and have this fabulous life being a famous composer. So that's just an example. So you don't just get gifts. Like, it just doesn't happen. It's not random. Like, it's all for a reason. The reason is because you practice. So one of the first beings that I connected to were angels when I first started meditating, and Archangel Gabriel came to me first. And when I first saw him and talked to him, I almost couldn't speak because I was in shock. Because I couldn't believe that I was actually talking to Archangel Gabriel from the Bible. I mean, most people know who he is. And so I asked him at one point, why am I so good at this? Why is it easy for me to talk to you? Why is it easy for me to see you? And he told me, you have practiced this so much in other lifetimes, and that's why you're good at it now. So it's straight from an archangel, gave me this information. And I felt good about that. I felt, okay, I earned this. This just didn't happen, or I didn't just get lucky. Practice this. And that's why I could match my frequency to the angelic realm and to the archangels. And I was even told by one of my medium teachers that there's no way you could connect to the archangel because the energy's too strong. And I was like, well, you're wrong.
Yeah.
If you can match the frequency, if you can bring your frequency up to match them, it's very easy.
Yes. And it also gives hope to people who decide to start practicing, because it means that with practice, even maybe they will not become perfect in this life, but there is a hope that in next life they will pick up all these skills and then add more and more and more and more, and they will become very proficient in this.
Right. And know that you are here for a reason, that this is a transitional time that can be very chaotic and tough. But you were born here because you wanted to be here at this time. I was born in 1973, and the early 70s, there were a lot of things that were supposed to happen that didn't happen. And it was an important time for me to come in here. I know that I picked this time and this place to be here. So no matter how much I might complain, it's hard. And it is hard. We're here for the fun of it. We're like actually here for the adventure of it. And we're here to bring in all our gifts so we can help the collective transition to a new age. And it's super exciting. It's an honor to be here now. Remind yourself every day that it's an honor to be here, and you're here for a reason. If you don't know what it is, you need to figure it out. You need to find the teachers, find the books, and check with your feelings. Like we said, excitement is a good sign. And follow that. Follow the trail because your soul speaks to you in feelings and how you feel about things. Not what you think about, how you feel.
Yes, yeah, I think that's very important. And my question is, and I was always curious about that, where all this information about our past lives is stored. How can we bring it from one life to another? And what are those obstacles for us to start remembering all that information? Yeah, so if we can tap into that potential, we can achieve tremendous results. But what prevents us from doing that?
All that information is stored in your energy field, and it's also stored in your DNA. So, say I'm working on a Reiki client, and I will get information about past lives. I will get maybe information from a childhood. I will recognize energy around them that might be the father or the mother or the grandmother or a past loved one. So, all that information on you is in your energy field and in your DNA as well. So it's multidimensional. It's energy, it's physical, it's mental and emotional, all of that in your aura or energy field.
And you also mentioned that we can try to start remembering those past lives to strengthen the gifts that we had. What are the best ways to do this, to start remembering?
Well, I wanted to mention too, I know you asked about obstacles.
Yes.
So one of the obstacles is doubt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you want to enhance your psychic gifts and you doubt yourself, you are going to have a hard time. You have to take that leap of faith that you're getting the right information. And when you get information, you don't want to interpret it right away. I'll give you examples. So I was in a mediumship class years ago, and we partnered up, and I partnered with this woman, and I saw a king with a crown sitting on a throne. And I said, there's a king here. I don't know who he is. What does this mean to you? And she said, well, this is my father because he used to like to put on a crown and act like the king as a joke. So that was pretty close. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't an actual king. It was her father acting as a king. But that's how the information came through. So you want to just describe what you see without interpreting it because you don't know. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like the king didn't mean anything to me. It was a message for my partner in class. Yeah. And so you learn with practice and experience not to interpret too much. Just state what you see. Yeah. And this is what I see. I don't know what it means. What does it mean to you? Mm-hmm. And sometimes the person doesn't know what it means, but that doesn't mean you did anything wrong. So know that you have to believe in yourself and trust yourself. Trust that you're giving as much as good information as you're getting and describing it, because later down the line, I've had clients say, you saw this and I know what it means now. And I didn't know what it meant at the time. So sometimes you have to give it time. Because if their client's not used to noticing subtle differences or messages, they're going to miss it. So it doesn't mean that you as the reader did anything wrong. You do the best that you can in every moment. And that applies to everybody.
Thank you for mentioning that. And again, we're getting to the topic of believing in yourself, yes, which is very important and sometimes difficult, but I think it's again practice. It starts and then you become more and more confident. And then I want to get back to that question of what are the best ways for us to start remembering what are our abilities, our gifts that we have from our past life experiences.
Start doing guided meditations. your past lives. There's a lot of guided meditations you can do. There are books on past lives, and you can even visit a hypnotherapist. I did that years ago. I was just trying every single thing. So past life regressionists, visit with them. I'm actually having 2 this week. I scheduled one on Friday and I have one on Sunday. So this information, why should you care? Because all those lives are actually not in the past, they're happening right now. And they bleed over onto this one. And so your phobias, guaranteed, if they're not from childhood, they're from a past life. Things that you can't explain, feelings that you have, or things that you're interested in that doesn't make any sense according to reviewing your history here, that has to do with other lifetimes. So when you realize you're this multidimensional being, I think it's very empowering. And you start making connections. Again, the connections are where your joy is. And you realize that nothing is random. And this is why you're scared of spiders, for example, or you don't like fire because you had a bad experience in this other lifetime. And oftentimes when you learn that, the phobia goes away. That's the magic of it. Just knowing that you experienced this gets rid of the fear, because you go, oh, that's why.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't need to be afraid now.
Mm-hmm.
That's not happening to me now in this lifetime.
Yes. Do you see the changes in how people are approaching now spirituality in general, the mysticism, with this change of basically epochs, yes, going to that Aquarius age? What's happening with people?
I think that people are becoming more sensitive. I think that whatever gifts they had, they've been ignoring, they suddenly facing. And sometimes suddenly people will have a gift. They didn't realize it, and then it started happening to them. So it's the timing. This is also causing a lot of anxiety for people right now. The anxiety level is really high. And when you're a sensitive person, you are going to be picking up on all sorts of feelings and energies around you, and that could make you anxious. And so if you are that kind of person, you need to be very aware and conscious of your empathy and sensitivity. And this is why I mentioned earlier, it's important to understand what's coming from you and what's coming from outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Just asking the question will make a difference. Say you're walking into Target, true story, years ago. I was in Target and I was walking around shopping, and all of a sudden I felt really angry. And I stopped. I literally stopped right there and said to myself, is there a reason why I should be angry right now?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was no. And I knew I walked into somebody's angry bubble that they left in the store. And so I said to myself, this is not my anger. This is not coming from me. I don't need to take this on.
Yeah.
And I just go about with my shopping.
Yes, I think that's such a great example. And then in this case, you're just an observer. And you can say, oh, yeah, here somebody came who had this negativity bubble. And here, oh, somebody happy just ran by. So you can feel it, but it's not me. You're still in your condition, yes, with which you came. But then you can just be aware of the environment when you do this separation and you train yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And it's just information. You don't need to feel it. You don't need to absorb it. If I am working with a client, I open the door to spirit and my gifts. But when I'm in the grocery store, I close it down. Over the years, I don't pick up on those energies and feelings anymore because I've practiced shielding. I know what's coming from me. and outside of me. And it's just like, again, a muscle that gets stronger and stronger. I don't even shield myself anymore. Like just spread love energy if I want to clear it. And if anything that's not compatible with love energy is not going to be around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but if you're a beginner, like you're shielding, you're going to make your aura stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets stronger, and those little things don't start affecting you anymore. And that's what I learned after months of practicing. I would walk into the store and I don't feel anybody else's negative emotions. And what a wonderful thing that is. And if I did, I would notice it and just mind my business and move along.
Yes. And my next question is about how else we communicate with the spirit world. You already mentioned that it's possible to help spirits to move on to other realms. You also were mentioning at the very beginning that we can help convey messages from spirits to other people. What is this type of job that we can do, of work that we can do to help spirits? Why would they need to convey certain messages? To whom do they want to convey them? And how do we help them to do this?
I think that spirits, they want to be heard. And so if you were a human, you passed on, most people are not connecting to spirit. They don't know that you are there. You're alone. You can't talk to anybody. No one can hear you for the most part, which is why if you are a natural medium, somehow they figure out this medium can hear me or see me or feel me, or I can go into her dream and she will know. So they gravitate to those people. So imagine if you're a medium that wasn't using your gifts. You're going to be bombarded. It's almost uncomfortable. And that's because you're a natural messenger. You're a natural medium. And so you should be using it. You should be practicing and knowing how to protect yourself too, because not all spirits are good. So you should be learning. You should be empowered and use it for the greater good because you're helping them. You help them, you help everybody because everybody is connected. They want to communicate, I think, because they either have a message for their loved one or they want to be heard and recognized. They don't want to be ignored anymore. And it's those final pieces that will allow them to move on. It's keeping them stuck here. And they need to be told the truth. For example, those spirits that said they told us heaven didn't exist for us. We need to tell them the truth that that was a lie and that heaven is there for them so that they can transition. And oftentimes they don't even know they can leave. After a while, they kind of get stuck in their own world and they wander around. They don't realize they could leave at any time. And that's like the basis of soul retrievals too, is that you have soul pieces in all these different lifetimes where you got stuck there, either because something bad happened, it could be something good happened and you never wanted to leave. And then there's a piece of your energy there. And how does that affect you now? Well, imagine if you had your energy spread out among like 100 lives. You wouldn't have all your energy here. So the shamanic practitioner would go and journey on your behalf to go retrieve those pieces so we can bring it back to you so you can have your energy back.
That's very interesting. Did you have experiences when you were conveying certain messages to the loved ones that souls wanted to convey?
Yeah. Well, oftentimes, if I'm doing a mediumship session, it's just that person wants to connect to a past loved one and know that they're okay. And this is the problem with our belief systems now. They're wrong. When someone passes away and they're around for a little bit because they want to be with their family and make sure they're okay, but eventually they're going to move on. And the place that they move on to is wonderful. They're not in pain anymore. They can do what they want. They still have hobbies. If you know how to sew, you can still sew. If you know how to fish, you can still fish on the other side. And so it's a wonderful place. And so I feel sad that people believe there's no life after death or they might go to hell, because that's not true. That's not what happens.
So, in your belief, there is this one place where everyone goes. What about people who maybe did something that wasn't really very nice? Murdered another person, did something not very good.
Yeah, we all go to the same place. Just think of this physical incarnation as like a play, a big, big play full of 9 billion people, and everybody is playing roles. And so your biggest enemy, your worst abuser, could have been someone that said, I will play that role so you could learn this, this, and this. So you could learn how not to be, which is the hardest, toughest lesson to learn. In that way is what you don't want to be like. It's still a lesson, still a learning experience. So say you came into this lifetime and you had a very hard relationship with someone, they gave you a hard time. Well, honestly, you probably agreed to it, basically, not the details, but you may have made an agreement with this person. You're going to come into this time, and if I have not realized certain things, you're going to wake me up. And it might be a hard wake up call. If you've been avoiding things or ignoring things, it might be hard. So this is why always pay attention to the signs, because it's going to be easier for you to figure out what to do next, what your next decision should be.
Yeah, it makes sense. So especially we need to be attentive to people who are doing something to us that doesn't feel good. Because they are doing it for a reason, to remind us of something, and probably about something that we agreed in advance before even coming to this reincarnation.
Or the lesson might be, Des, you need to learn how to stand up for yourself. Maybe that's the lesson. Maybe you haven't been very good at speaking your truth, standing up for yourself. And you've allowed people to bully you, push you around. And those situations are going to get worse and worse until you realize, I need to stand up for myself. I need to love myself enough to stand up to someone. And so it could be that. It's not because people are trying to torture you. It's because you need to learn something. There's something you haven't learned. You need to figure it out. And then when you stand up for yourself, and that's the final straw, those lessons go away. Those people go away. They stop bothering you because you finally learned how to do it. You learned how to love yourself enough to stand up for yourself.
Yes, they disappear, and you may even not notice that they're not there anymore. Thank you very much for this wonderful advice. And can you talk now about how the world of souls can help us? Because you said that this is the process between us. We are helping the souls, and souls also can help us. So what is that other process that's going on?
So the wonderful thing about being on this planet is we have a lot of angelic help. And so every person has up to 4 guardian angels. They're with you all the time. And also there's different angels like archangels and the angels of healing, Raphael's angels or Michael's angels of protection. So there's all sorts of angels that we have access to. The only way to get their help is to ask, though, unless it's a life and death situation where they have to whisk you out because it's not your time, which happens a lot. They're there and develop a relationship with them. You don't have to hear them. You could talk to them and they'll hear you. You don't have to be psychic. You don't have to hear them, but you can ask for their help, because it's like they're standing by twiddling their thumbs with nothing to do because you're not utilizing them. And so we also have spirit guides that help us. And so before you're born here, you agree with certain people, certain souls. Please help me do this, whatever it is that you wanted to do in this lifetime. I mean, I don't think there's any limit to spirit guides, the number that you can have. I've had another psychic medium tell me I had a whole group working with me. And you may not know them individually by name or by face, but it's an agreement you made. Help me in this lifetime. And it could even be a group. Like if you're a star seed and you're connected to Pleiadians, for example, the Pleiadians could be helping you as a collective, if you're connected to them, or if you had many lifetimes on Sirius, you could connect with the Syrians and they could be helping you as a collective. So the help is like available, it's infinite, and it's not limited. It's just keep asking.
So there is so much going on that we usually don't think about, and we can help other souls, and they can hear us, and they can support us, and we can do things for them. So it's so interconnected, and the good thing is that things are changing, and we are becoming more sensitive, and we hear more, and hopefully we can start getting more confident in what we hear, what we feel, and start participating in all this process.
Yeah, and let me mention also, you have soul groups that you incarnate with.
Oh.
And so, like, I'll give you an example. My soul group is the Templars and the Cathars of France. And so that's one soul group I'm connected to. And then another one is Indigenous people of the world I'm connected to. So I've had many lifetimes as an Indigenous person in North America, in past civilizations like Lemuria. And then we all incarnate together. So we have soul group goals. We say, hey, we're all going to come in the 70s, like my group, and we're going to remember our lifetimes as an Indigenous person, or as a Templar, or as a Cathar, or as a true follower of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. We're going to remember that. We're going to come together. And then we might find each other, vibrate at the same time, and there will be this inner knowing, yes, we had a lifetime in Egypt together. Or yes, we were connected to Mary Magdalene together. You'll know pretty soon because you'll have all these commonalities. So one guy said years ago, he said, beep for your peeps. And what he meant is like your vibration will attract like vibration, and they'll come and find you. They'll be drawn to you for a reason.
You probably just need to make your vibrations really strong so that they can hear your vibe and come.
I feel like oftentimes my clients and my students, we have many lifetimes together. I mean, the synchronicities are really amazing. So every time I teach a class, I know those people are already connected and they were attracted to that class on that date. And because they were meant to connect again, because nothing is random. Everything happens for a reason. So it's an amazing process.
Yeah. It is a very interesting process, and it also makes me think about our individual purpose as a soul here on Earth, but also a collective purpose. So we have our own purpose and also a purpose as that group of souls that we also have when we come here. Did you feel anything like that there is something that maybe you need to do here as a group together with those souls, not only as an individual?
Yeah, I think really we need to find each other. And when we find each other, we'll know what we need to do together.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just to take one class together. Sometimes it's to become friends and help each other with your journey.
Mm-hmm.
I often say to people, you're not learning this, you're relearning this. You're remembering that you already knew this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you just need a reminder, you need a refresher.
Yeah.
And that's where those natural gifts come
Mm-hmm.
in. And you go, oh, I'm pretty good at this, and I'm good at this for a reason. And then how can I use this gift to help others?
Yeah. Yes, that makes sense. I'm very curious about your journeys that you mentioned, you described in your book. Can you give us a glimpse into that and make people more interested in exploring them in your books?
Yeah, so the way I was taught the shamanic journey, it's like a organized self-meditation, guided meditation. So when I do a journey, say for someone else, they might have some questions. It might be, what's my life purpose? Or show me the past lives where it's affecting me now.
Mhm.
That's a good general one. So what I do is I collect my power animals because I don't ever do anything without them when I journey into the spirit world. So I got my group of animals and I follow a path and I see the tree of life. And the tree of life is the portal to the spirit world. So in traditional shamanic traditions, you have the upper and middle and lower worlds. So the lower world would be the world where everything is hidden, kind of the shadow world where things hide.
Mhm.
The middle world is like earth, the world of earth. So you'll recognize mountains and oceans, earth scenery. And then the upper world, I mean, you could go to another planet, you could go to the angelic dimension. So that would be the upper world. And so I don't really worry about what world I go to, I just go to it. So when I enter the tree, there's a door to the tree. You enter inside with your power animals and you ask the questions that you seek answers to. And then there's another door in the rear of the tree. You go out and then you wait to see what happens. And so usually I end up in a place. I'll end up in the desert or I end up on a path and I'll follow the path. And this happens a lot. I'll encounter an indigenous village. See, there's my indigenous soul group coming up again. So I encounter a village. And then sometimes there are people waiting for you that know that you're coming,
Ah,
which is really fun. And so you'll have a
Mhm.
greeter, or it could be what I call another guide that's waiting for
Mhm.
you. And they'll say, hey, we knew you were coming. We know you're looking for answers. We're going to take you to this person in the village and they'll have an answer for you.
Mhm.
A lot of times it's like the chief or the chiefess of the village.
Yeah.
And then once you're done with them, they give you the information, you go to the next place. So you follow the path and then you might end up in an island in the ocean.
Mhm.
And then I just did a journey recently and I ended up on an island and a little boy saw me. And he said, hey, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm looking for these answers. And he said, let me call my mom. She'll know what to do. So the mother showed up. She had a basket under her arm. I told her what the information I was looking for. She dropped the basket and left, and we followed her. And the little boy, I picked him up and put him in the basket and carried him. And then we went to what looked like a pergola, and there was someone sitting underneath with the information I was looking for. So it's really a journey into other places, and it could be other timelines too. So this is a form of time travel. You could be specific and say, I want to journey to the 15th century France if you wanted to. So the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I was first journeying, I would ask the greeter, they would say, how long have you been waiting? I would say, how long have you been waiting for me? Because they would say, I've been waiting for you. And one medicine man said 2,000 years. Then I felt bad. I was like, I'm sorry I made you wait so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
But time is different in these places. It's not the same for us.
Yeah.
So, and I've even visited places, there is no time. They said there is no time. We're timeless here. So it's just a awesome way to travel on a spirit level, to get answers and information, to experience healing. I think it's the funnest and one of the best things that I do.
Yes, that's absolutely amazing. And it reminded me of travel that you were talking about in one of the podcasts. I think it was with a person from Egypt. You had the podcast. So you are also involved in travels, in
Yes.
actual physical world, not only in a spiritual world. Can you tell our listeners a bit about that as well?
Yeah, so for years I've been traveling to sacred sites around the world, and these sites are so ancient. They were built there by our ancestors because these are powerful places, and they're left here for us to explore and to connect with.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been to Mexico, Egypt, Montana. We got sacred places in France. I'm actually hosting a tour this fall to Egypt.
Yeah.
Last year, I visited Egypt for the first time.
Mm.
And here's where you get that validation. Why am I so drawn to Egypt? And a lot of people are drawn to Egypt. We went to an essential oil business, amazing essential oils. And the owner is a healer too, and intuitive. And as we sat in the group, he looked straight at me and he said, "You've had many, many lifetimes in Egypt." He said, "We even know each other."
Mm.
And so you'll get that, you'll meet people and they'll just know, or they just have this feeling.
Mhm.
And so if you're drawn to a place, yes, you can visit remotely. You can do a shamanic journey to the Giza pyramids. And I've seen the pyramids many, many times in my journeys, many times. But go to that place if you can, because there's information, energy, and codes in these sacred places waiting for you as the key or as the connection, or maybe there's something you need to remember about a lifetime there, or maybe you'll get cleared. That happened to me. So when I went to Egypt, we were following the chakras, the temples that represented the chakras. So we flew into Cairo and then immediately flew to Aswan, which is the southern part of Egypt, and we visited Abu Simbel and the Temple of Isis multiple times and Elephantine Island. And I ended up having a disagreement with my roommate. And she had said something really upsetting to me that I couldn't let go. And so here's the beauty of travel. So travel is always pushing you to be better. And so she was really just a messenger of a wound that I had not healed. So we went to the unfinished obelisk, and that's where she confronted me because she knew I was unhappy with her. I tried to push her away, and I ended up crying the whole time I was there, which is not like me at all. So, I was releasing something really, really deep
Cleaning.
and unexpected.
Yeah.
So I kind of left the group. I was going to meet them at the exit. And then one of the people in my group, she just looked me in the eyes and said, "Tina, I've been feeling feelings that I thought I had already released and let go." And when she told me that, I just calmed down. because I felt like I wasn't alone. And then my roommate apologized. She's just a lovely person. And she didn't need to keep apologizing to me. We hugged, we made up, and I just felt this energy just leave me. And the energy was of victimhood, because what she said to me, it triggered me into victimhood. So I just felt all this energy leave me. And then we saw this local taxi cab pull up, and it said Jesus on it. You know, sometimes they have a little sign, and the sign said Jesus. And we all started laughing hysterically because we said, Jesus is saying, get our acts together. So after that, I swear, when you have that clearing and release, you feel like a new person. You feel like I was carrying a heavy backpack and I just put it down, and you physically feel lighter. Yeah. And so that was my hard moment in Egypt. Yeah. And everybody in the group had a tough moment, but we all supported each other through it and helped each other through it. And so this is what these places do, is that they push you to remember who you really are. They can push you to clear really fast. I mean, I cleared something really deep and old, and I didn't expect it. I mean, I was at the unfinished obelisk. That's just like where they used to cut stone. So that's where it happened for me. And the beauty of it is I will guide the group in this. And so I'll be the container for you in this trip, because I've already been through it. And I'm sure I'll go through it again. Something else will happen. And that's the beauty of it. You'll get initiated, you'll get up-leveled, you'll get cleared by visiting these sacred places.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm glad that you are doing this type of trips and people will have opportunity to have this experience. Thank you for doing that. And so our podcast is going towards the end. Maybe you have something to share, something that maybe we didn't discuss, something that I didn't ask, but you would like to share with our listeners.
Wow, we already talked about so much, but if you would like to understand what the journeys are like that I've done, check out my book, Into the Tree, Journey into the Spirit World. It's available on Amazon, on Kindle and print version. My Egypt trip, we still have spots left on the trip. So it's September 12th to the 23rd. And you can get that information on my website, or you can contact me if you have any questions on that. I think it's going to be an amazing trip, and it's going to draw people that need to be together in Egypt at that time. So if you feel called to it, explore it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I would love to see you in Egypt. It's an amazing place.
Thank you so much, Tina. And we will add all this information in our podcast notes for our listeners so that they can easily find it. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best on your spiritual journeys. And I hope to see you in the future again on our podcast. I'm sure our listeners truly, truly enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, maybe after the trip, I can come on and tell you what happened.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Melina.
Thank you, Tina. Dear listeners, I hope you found our Magical Professions podcast episode insightful. As we concluded, I'd like to extend a heartfelt invitation to all of you. Your stories, encounters, and knowledge are invaluable to us, and we want you to be a part of this mystical journey. Have you ever had a brush with a magical profession, a strange encounter, or stumbled upon hidden knowledge? Do you possess ancient scrolls, widespread tales, or first hand experiences that you believe belong in the spotlight? Are you aware of a sci fi or fantasy book or a movie with magical professionals in it? We want to hear from you. At Magical Professions, we cherish the power of collective wisdom and the magic of shared experiences. So don't be shy. Reach out to us with your stories, sources, or any information about magical professions you would like to share. You can connect with us via email at magicalprofessions@gmail.com or through our social media channels. Your contribution could become the heart of a future episode, and together we'll weave an even richer tapestry of wonder. Thank you for joining us on this mystical journey. Remember, the magic is not just in the stories we tell, but in the connections we make. Until next time, keep the magic alive, and may your world be ever more enchanting. I can't wait to hear from you.